I have been looking forward to this one quite a lot, not because I play them, but because I actually play against them quite often, as you will know if you've watched any of our AOS battle reports, but there has been a massive wave of new Nurgle models for Age of Sigmar released upon us. There is almost an entirely new army's worth of models being released for the Maggotkin of Nurgle, so if you are a follower of Papa Nurgle and the followers of Decay, it is a very, very good time for you. Of course, first things first, there is another big related reveal, which is of course the new Warhammer Quest game. This one is called Darkwater, and this is a brand new tabletop game for up to 4 players who will take the role of various heroes from the mortal realms, and they will attempt to stop the spread of the evil, disease-ridden plans of Nurgle and his chosen champion, the new Demon Prince Gelgus Pust. This game sounds super fun, I have to say. I am always a really big fan of cooperative board games, and I think this one is going to be, from the sounds of it, an absolute blast to play through with your friends. So on the hero side, you are getting a selection of 7 adventurers, of which you will be controlling 1 when you play, and then the games, they are said to range anything from a quick 30-minute skirmish all the way to a full 10 to 14 hours if you want to go through the whole campaign over a weekend or something, which to me just sounds like so much fun. The heroes that, as I mentioned, there are 7 to choose from, they all look fantastic. There are some stunning new models, even if you don't want to play the game, just to get so you can build up and paint. Some of them we have seen over on Warhammer Community already. We saw Edmark Valoran, Bren Tylus, Inara Scion, and Drolf Ironhead, who are a variety of heroes ranging from a noble knight to a vengeful dwarven explorer. You can see them all on your screen now. Personally, for me, I think that Bren Tylus may be my chosen hero. A Renegade Saint is definitely right up my alley in terms of like backstory and lore that I like for my characters. But on top of those 4, there are 3 more heroes that you can pick from that we have now seen revealed. We have got Kelthanor, who is a Kurnos-inspired forest prince who looks to be something of a ranged option for the heroes, as well as possibly quite a speedy one thanks to essentially being half horse. We also get the amazingly cool Drasha Vaughn, who is from a tribe of shapeshifters. He looks kind of like a werebear, which I used to own as a child. I don't know if they were a thing in America, but certainly in the UK, werebears were like a toy from when you were a child. I've put one on the screen now for reference. That's kind of what he reminds me of, but I imagine he is going to be a fairly tanky, quite terrifying close combat specialist with those claws. And then finally, you can also pick Jacobus Vine, who is a wizard of the Jade Order, so very Lore of Life inspired, and obviously life being the enemy of decay and disease, he is definitely going to be very well suited for taking on the forces of Gelgus Pust. So they all look really fun, they all look really unique and individual in their own way, and whether you are playing this just by yourself or with up to 3 of your friends, I think it's going to be a really interesting dynamic and sort of combination of what characters you want to take to bring various buffs and bonuses to your party to help you achieve your mission. But it looks like it is going to be an incredibly fun cooperative game to play. Of course, on the other side of things, you do have the Nurgle forces. They are also, in their own disgusting way, incredibly gorgeous. Gelgus himself is a demon prince, and as soon as I first saw him, I thought he just looked utterly incredible. He's still got that not fairly standard, but he's still got that vaguely human form, but he's got those giant cloven feet, that huge rotting arm, and those massive horns on his head. He does look incredibly intimidating. He also, size-wise, is a very chunky boy. As you can tell from the main picture we have of all the contents of the game, he is easily the biggest model in the set. He stands at least twice as tall as Drolf Ironhead, and he's basically twice as wide as well. So I think he's going to be really fun to paint up, and, you know, being the Prince of Sores, I imagine things like disease and pestilence is going to follow him around basically wherever he goes. He is leading a force comprised of a few other named characters as well. Starting off, we have Belga the Cyst Witch. She used to be a priestess devoted to the Jade Abbey, but she has since been corrupted and now clearly concocts all manner of plagues and diseases, as you can see in her model. She's got that incredibly cool staff, which I really like. It's got the 3 points of Nurgle on it. Her cauldron is just oozing that vile liquefied remains of whatever is in there, and she's even got that huge maggot thing on her base, which is really interesting and really cool. I don't know if that's going to impact like her actual attack output. Maybe in actual games of Age of Sigmar there will be some bonus extra attacks from that, but I just think she is such an awesome model to see. I cannot wait to see one fully painted and up on the table. She will also, due to being a priestess, likely bring some either spell casting or prayer chanting to this game, as well as regular games of Age of Sigmar. Gelgus also has a loyal lieutenant in Morgoth the Cleaver. I initially thought when we saw the leaked blurry image of the box set that this might be Festus, but indeed I was clearly wrong about that. But Morgoth, he's got a huge arm. He's clearly been working out, and he is definitely going to be that sort of super hard-hitting, melee-focused hero of the bunch. I can't actually decide if I think his fist or his axe will end up doing more damage, but they are both going to be very significant threats for the heroes on this adventure. And then finally, in terms of actual heroes, you also get a loyal beastman, the Shaman Foulhoof. He is a devoted follower of Gelgus, and he and his own followers, the Flyblown Pestigors, which are some beastmen, they have pledged themselves to his cause and just add even more bodies for our intrepid heroes to have to cut through. In terms of the box itself, it is said to contain 49 models, which is fairly good. You've obviously got the 7 heroes, you've got our 4 Nurgle characters, but then there is a veritable army of other Nurgle followers. First up is the Cankerborn. These look to be fairly beefy models in themselves. There is 2 of them, and from the looks of the picture, they are on 40mm bases, and they are also taller than pretty much anything else in the set, apart from Gelgus, so they are going to be likely very tough and very, very difficult to get rid of. Essentially what they are is demons that are created when there is violence against the land itself. So when there is decay and disease and destruction being done to the forests and the rivers and the hills, these guys will appear, and they basically show up ready to serve Nurgle, destroy his enemies, and just further corrupt the world and the land. The Blight Templars are up next. These are kind of similar to what the Maggotkin have in regular AOS with their Blight Kings. They are the mortal heroes of Nurgle who have devoted themselves to their god and accepted all manner of horrible diseases and plagues into their body to better serve him. They look to be extremely heavily armoured, as well as quite killy, with their mixture of maces and flails and axes. They've even got a few tentacles thrown in for good measure, but I think these are going to be some of the toughest opponents that you have to face in this quest, because they just look incredibly tanky. Moving from them onto the more chaff side of things, you do also get a unit called Pox Wretches in this set. They, from the looks of it, act as your throwaway, scrawny, like mortal followers of Nurgle. So they've succumbed to disease and plague and pain, and they are mostly just your sort of regular peasant, like, you know, infantry sort of things, the lesser servants of Nurgle, who will just be there to get in the face of your heroes and clog them up and try and slow them down just through sheer weight of bodies, but won't be too threatening on their own. And then in a similar vein, the Pestigors that have come along with your Shaman Foulhoof, they will probably fill a similar sort of role. They are going to be another way to have some probably fairly weak but numerous chaff and screens to block the adventurers on their quest, and they will likely probably be a bit killier than things like your Pox Wretches. They have got obviously that Beastmen uncontrollable rage and those big axes, so they will likely be a bit of a screening unit, but one that can potentially do a bit more damage to your heroes. They essentially are there to follow their shaman and help to further corrupt the land in the name of Nurgle. Finally, there's also another interesting new unit, the Mire Kelpies. These diseased, sort of cursed spirits, of which there look to be either 6 or 8 of them, they are essentially going to be the weakest obstacle that the heroes will face. But through their numbers, they can again apparently bite and harass the opponent, as well as lob putrid bile at the heroes to try and bring them down. So perhaps something of a small ranged unit for the forces of Nurgle to employ. Overall, I think the box looks amazing. It really, really does. Not just on the model side of things. You also get a really big, chunky rule book. You get 341 cards that cover everything from abilities and equipment and gear to statuses, rewards, events, and everything else that you may need to know for this game. So it is a massive, fully fleshed out game, and it really does look like it's going to bring hours and hours of fun before you even consider the fact that at least the Nurgle stuff, I think everything in here, but certainly the Nurgle stuff has been confirmed to be getting full rules in the new Nurgle Battletome, and will also be getting separate releases later. So even after you have done all of the different missions and stories and quests in this, if you play Maggotkin, you are still essentially getting almost an entire new army as well to use in your regular games of Age of Sigmar. On the topic of the main Battletome though, as said, what you are getting in Darkwater isn't all. The Maggotkin are also getting another huge wave of releases, to be honest, to go alongside their new tome. And in fact, we start off with a model that I've wanted to see back for absolutely ages. He used to be in resin way back in the day in Warhammer Fantasy. He has had a very impressive glow up, and that is of course Festus the Leechlord. He is back, fully ready to spread his pestilence and his potions and plagues to his enemies, and this time he's not doing it on foot. He is riding a massive colossal slug. Yep, you heard me right. Festus the Leechlord is riding, well, now I say it, it looks like a slug. They say in the article it's like a giant slug, but the Leechlord kind of would make sense. Maybe this is a giant leech. Either way, who knows? It looks utterly grotesque, so I really love it. Festus still has that lovable smile, but he seems to have gained even more mass, as well as the tentacle that he used to have now seems to come out of his stomach instead of out his back where it was on his old model. He's still got that crooked staff that he carries around with him, and he still looks to have that huge wealth of potions and concoctions. He really does just look amazing. The lore for Festus is that he was a healer back in his previous life and also back in the world that was, and he has then since spent over 7,777 years with Papa Nurgle perfecting his art. So now he rides around with his mount, which is called Blight, to spread those potions to all of his enemies. I imagine he's still going to be a caster. He will probably be fairly mediocre in terms of his own attacks, but I imagine the mount will have some fairly scary ones with that massive gaping maw that it has. And then if he's anything like he was before, he will likely have some rules to help you either heal up your own units or just inflict some horrible damage onto the enemy as he throws his various potions around the battlefield. Next up, we have a unit that is actually one of the ones I'm less keen on, the Sloven Knights. Now, I really do appreciate the design of these. I love how massive and overbearing and like hefty the knights are, and how, you know, almost broken and decrepit the poor horses look. It is truly like this chaotic, horrific, very Nurgle-y image. It definitely does bring that Nurgle vibe. I'm just personally not the biggest fan of them for some reason. They don't look awful, don't get me wrong. I don't think they look terrible. They just, for me personally, I think they just look okay. They don't really hit the spot for me. But in either case, they are going to almost certainly add some much needed mobility and speed for the Maggotkin, and they do look like they are going to be fairly brutal with their chunky armor and their hefty melee weapons. So I do think they're still going to be good, and if you like the design, then more power to you, because I think they will be worth taking. They're just, for me, they don't really hit the spot. Getting a really nice revamp is the ever popular Blight Kings. These guys initially came about with the End Times, so they're about 10 years old now. The models that they currently have are actually still really good. I think they still hold up really well to this day. So I think it's arguable whether they needed a new kit and a new design, but these new ones definitely are very interesting. They've taken a bit of a design twist, in my opinion. They are less tentacly than the current ones, and they have a lot less sort of open gaping holes with nurglings and mouths all over the place. They look a bit more, I suppose the only way to describe it is complete. Like their skin is actually together. It's not, you know, bursting open quite as much. So they look a little bit more complete. It's not a bad thing. Like, I do like them. I think the models look cool. They really do look brutal. And they've got that same massive presence and imposing presence with their huge weapons and their plate armor. But I do think that if you already have plenty of Blight Kings and you know, you've got some built and painted up already, they have confirmed they are going to be on the same base size. So I do wonder if you will need to get these ones, because I think the old ones will still be just as good. I think the big issue is that these new ones, the entire sort of Maggotkin range seems to be moving towards a bit of a different aesthetic. So I think those older Blight Kings might start to look a little bit out of place if you've got a load of the other units that are coming with this release, like your Sloven Knights and all that kind of stuff. But I think with the right paint scheme, with the right color scheme, they will probably go together fairly well. And as I said, they are on the same base side. So whilst they might look a tiny bit odd side by side, for the most part, they will be absolutely fine. So if you already have some of the older Blight Kings, I wouldn't worry too much. You don't need to get these new ones if you've got enough. But even if you do end up getting some, they will probably fit together pretty well. A unit that I really do like is the next one. This is the Rotswords. These guys are racked with fever and disease that essentially makes them constantly twitch and spasm around, giving them this awful like jittery movement, unlike the usual slow, shambling shuffle that most Nurgle followers have. They are not quite as bloated and diseased as the bigger Blight Kings, and they actually still fit into their armor. So I imagine these guys are going to be more of a middle ground, better than your usual chaff, but not quite as terrifying or tanky as your Blight Kings. And I honestly think these guys are really good. I love the fact that they are still in their armor. They're still clearly Nurgly. They're still, infected and rusting and diseased, and they've got those horns, so they will definitely fit in with the range, but they just look a bit more intact, which I know maybe people like Nurgle because it isn't intact, but I just really like the design of these. I love the fact that their armor looks so well built and hard and durable. They look like they are going to be quite a scary anvil that will just be able to hold your enemy in place while the rest of your units get into position. And then finally, on the new unit front, like we saw in the Warhammer Quest box, there are some new Pestigors coming. These ones actually do look quite different to the ones in Darkwater. The ones in that box look a bit more like regular beastmen that are just diseased and sort of followers of Nurgle. These ones actually look a lot more genuinely decayed and plagued. They've got that pale mottled skin. They've got loads more pustules and diseases all over them. They look a lot more like they have succumbed to infection compared to the Darkwater ones, which I think is quite interesting, and I think it'll be quite, unique to have both sets and mix and match them together. I think it's going to be really interesting to use them and have this cheap chaff screen to help stop your enemy and, give, as I said, give your hammer unit some time and space to get into position to where they need to be. But I think they're going to be quite a useful addition to the army. Although, as I said, you are getting all the stuff from Darkwater with War Scrolls in regular AOS. So you are still going to have the option for those Pox Wretches, which I think will be an even cheaper chaff sort of screen that you can bring. Now, as I mentioned, there is a brand new Battletome coming. It does have some stunning artwork, as you can see on your screen now. Alongside that is a new Spearhead, 2 regiments and 2 armies of renown, and also an entirely separate new Path to Glory book, which I think is very cool. And if you are a fan of those narrative, story-focused campaigns in Path to Glory, this will be a very exciting one to pick up. And I just think in general, all in all, it looks like next year, because I imagine this is not going to be releasing till next year based on where we are, early November, but I don't think this is going to release before Christmas. So I think next year is looking to be a very, very good year for Nurgle fans. Your army has, let's be honest, with all of the stuff you're getting in Darkwater and these other releases, probably almost doubled in size in terms of available roster, and all of it looks absolutely fantastic. So I really, really can't wait to see some of these kits built and painted up and on the table, and also see what new tricks and diseases and horrible plans the Maggotkin will be able to unleash in their new Battletome. But that's going to be it for Age of Sigmar. As always, I'd love to know your thoughts, not only on the new Darkwater releases, both the Heroes and the Nurgle side, but also the other Maggotkin stuff that is coming alongside that. Will you be picking up the Warhammer Quest box? Will you be picking up any of this new Nurgle stuff? Let me know all of your thoughts and theories and ideas down in the comments below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me. But until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.